Welcome, traveler. You've arrived at Snooze Scholar, a space where knowledge drifts like smoke and understanding unfolds not in haste, but in harmony. Here, the pressure to know fades. There are no questions you must answer, no thoughts you must hold on to, just a soft voice in the dark, and a story as old as time itself. And before we begin, if this journey brings you peace or reflection, or if you simply enjoy letting knowledge lull you toward sleep, I invite you to like this episode and subscribe to Snooze Scholar. It helps others find this space, and it helps keep these explorations alive. Tonight, we are not merely going to learn. We are going to remember. Remember a time before you, before your name, before the earth, before even light. We begin at the place where there was nothing, not an empty room, not a silent space, but nothing. No distance, no direction, no atoms, no energy, not even the idea of before. The universe, as you know it, didn't yet exist. There was no sky to gaze into, no moon to pull the tides. Time had not yet taken its first step. Space had not drawn its first breath. Even the dark was not dark, because there was nothing for darkness to cling to. And then, something. Not a bang, as the name might suggest, but a blooming, a sudden release of potential, like a breath that had been held for eternity and finally exhaled in a flash of radiant becoming. In that moment, so brief we cannot measure it, all the matter and energy that would ever exist exploded outward in an instant of unthinkable density, heat, and transformation. That was the beginning, the first ripple, the seed of all stories. From that seed would grow galaxies, stars, oceans, and minds. From that first unfolding, chaos would dance with order, and out of their rhythm, life would take its first steps. And now, across 13.8 billion years, here you are, listening, breathing, remembering. So as you lie back, let your breath become slower, let your muscles unwind, and your thoughts grow soft around the edges. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe, wrapped in skin, pulsing with memory. Tonight, you will not simply hear a story. You will float gently through it. Close your eyes if they aren't closed already. Feel the gravity ease its grip on your chest. And allow yourself to fall, not down, but backward into the past. Let us begin. At the edge of existence, at the border between everything and nothing. It began not with light, but with heat. An unimaginable furnace compressed into a point so small it defied all scale. A singularity, a moment with no size, no time, no boundary. There was no where, because there was no space. No when, because time itself had not yet unfolded. And then, suddenly, everything began to change. In less than the blink of a thought, this single point bloomed outward. Not into space, but as space. There was no canvas for the universe to appear upon. The universe was painting itself, brush stroke by brush stroke, in real time. This was the Big Bang, a phrase that captures the drama but not the detail. It was not an explosion in space. It was the rapid swelling of space itself. The infant universe expanded faster than the speed of light, stretching from subatomic silence to cosmic immensity in a fraction of a second. Inside this unfathomable heat, temperatures so intense they make the center of stars seem cold, the very first building blocks of matter began to form. Quarks, gluons, tiny, fundamental sparks that would one day become everything. Every atom, every planet, every thought. The universe was thick with energy, a glowing soup, dense and hot beyond imagination. Light could not move freely through it yet. It bounced and scattered, trapped in the chaos. It was a universe without transparency, a glowing fog of raw creation. But within this storm, patterns were beginning to emerge. Tiny fluctuations, the subtlest ripples in density, were whispering the future shape of stars and galaxies. They were the wrinkles in the fabric of a newborn cosmos, the fingerprints of gravity's coming artistry. And then, after just a few minutes, a heartbeat in cosmic time, the heat began to drop. The furious dance of particles slowed just enough to allow new unions. Protons found neutrons. Together, they formed the first atomic nuclei. Hydrogen, helium, a dash of lithium. The lightest elements, forged in the furnace of the first moment, would go on to build everything heavier. Still, the universe remained too hot for atoms to form. Electrons roamed free, unable to settle, like sparks unwilling to rest on kindling. For hundreds of thousands of years, the universe remained this way, expanding, cooling, quieting, and then a turning point. Roughly 380,000 years after the Big Bang, temperatures finally fell enough for electrons to slow down and join with nuclei. Atoms were born. With their birth, light was finally free to move. The fog lifted, and the universe, for the first time, became visible. This moment is called recombination, but it could just as easily be called revelation. The release of the first light, the universe's first breath of clarity. And that light, that ancient glow, is still with us, still stretching through the cosmos, still echoing across the void. We call it the cosmic microwave background, a whisper from the past, a fossil of light older than stars. So pause now, breathe, and picture it. A universe newly transparent, a soft, warm afterglow filling infinite space. No galaxies yet, no suns, no planets, just a quiet haze, waiting for the gravity to pull, for clouds of hydrogen to gather, for darkness to collapse and ignite. In the next chapter, we will watch the stars awaken, and with them, the dawn of light as we know it. But for now, rest in the warmth of that first light, a glow that traveled billions of years just to brush gently against your skin tonight. The universe had cooled. The light had been freed, but the night sky as we know it had not yet been born. There were no stars twinkling in the dark, no galaxies spinning in silence, only an ocean of hydrogen and helium atoms, scattered thin across an expanding void. It was quiet, but it was not still, for in the endless black, gravity was stirring. A patient, invisible hand, slow, deliberate, eternal. Everywhere the universe was just slightly denser, just slightly more crowded with matter, gravity took notice. It pulled, it gathered. It began to weave the first threads of cosmic structure. Like dust drifting toward the center of a room, these atoms began to fall inward. Not quickly, not all at once, but gently, over millions of years. Great clouds of gas formed, vast and shapeless, and as they collapsed under their own weight, pressure built. The atoms within were squeezed tighter and tighter, until the very force of their compression gave rise to heat, and then something more. At the heart of these clouds, a flicker, a kindling. The first stars were about to be born. Inside these deep gravitational cradles, hydrogen atoms were being forced together with such intensity that their nuclei fused. One atom became another, and in that moment, energy was released. This was nuclear fusion, the engine of the stars, the fire that would light the universe. Not an ordinary fire, not flames fed by wood or air, but a ceaseless, radiant burn of elemental transformation. The first stars ignited. They were not like the stars we see today. They were giants, colossal, unstable, and short-lived. Some were hundreds of times the mass of our sun, glowing with fierce ultraviolet heat, their lifespans measured not in billions of years, but in millions. Brief, brilliant candles blazing against the black. And yet, their lives mattered more than their length, because within their cores, these first stars became alchemists, forging heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, the very ingredients of life. And when their time came, they did not fade. They exploded. These were the first supernovae, titanic detonations that ripped apart the stars, scattering their newly forged elements across the cosmos. Iron, gold, calcium. Everything that would one day form planets, oceans, bones, and blood. All of it was born in the depths of stars. From these ashes, new stars would form, and around them, disks of gas and dust would spin, seeding the future with the possibility of worlds. Meanwhile, across the vast stretches of space, gravity's reach continued. It tugged at clusters of stars, drawing them into patterns. These patterns twisted into spirals. They swirled into massive halos and glowing arms. They collided, merged, and danced across the dark. And thus, galaxies were born, billions of them, each one a city of stars, drifting like a luminous island in a sea of black. Our own galaxy, the Milky Way, was just one of these, a modest spiral, slowly forming across eons, filled with stars, young and old. And tucked away in a quiet corner of one spiral arm was a cloud, a small one, unremarkable, spinning in silence. And from that cloud, something extraordinary would emerge. But for now, we pause. The stars have awakened. The galaxies are rising. The elements of life are drifting quietly through space, waiting for their moment. In the next chapter, we will witness the birth of a solar system, the coming together of dust, stone, and light, and the slow, careful crafting of a world that would one day ask where it came from. For now, rest. Let the galaxies spin above you. Let the fire of ancient suns warm your dreams. You're not separate from them. You are made of them. Far from the heart of the galaxy, in a quiet arm of the Milky Way, a cloud began to collapse. It wasn't special, not at first glance. Just another swirling mass of hydrogen, helium, and trace elements. Leftovers from ancient stars drifting endlessly through space. But something shifted, a spark of change. Perhaps a nearby supernova had sent a ripple through the gas, a wave of pressure, just enough to tip the balance. And so, gravity began its slow, silent work again. The cloud thickened, it spun, it tightened. At the center, material gathered with growing heat and weight, compressing tighter with every breath of collapse. The core grew hotter, brighter. And then, as had happened with the first stars long ago, fusion began. A new star was born, our sun. Not enormous by cosmic standards, not massive, not rare, but stable, warm, consistent. The kind of star that could nurture life if given the right companions. Around this infant sun, the remaining dust and gas continued to swirl. It flattened into a wide, spinning disk, glowing gently in the starlight. Within this disk, tiny grains of matter clung to one another. What was once scattered became sticky. Microscopic bits joined into pebbles, then rocks, then boulders tumbling silently through the void. They collided, they shattered, they reformed. It was not graceful, it was chaos, slow motion violence across millions of years. But out of this churning storm of collisions, planets began to take shape. Closest to the sun, where the heat burned away the lightest elements, rocky worlds emerged, small, dense, and solid. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. Farther out beyond the frost line, where ice could remain, giants were born. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Swollen with gas, wrapped in storms, circled by moons. And in between, debris remained, asteroids, comets, fragments of would-be planets that never found form. Scattered across the solar system, they whispered of beginnings never fulfilled. But it was Earth that would become the miracle. A fragile sphere just the right distance from the sun. Not too hot, not too cold. Its molten core spun with energy. Its surface cooled and cracked. Volcanoes roared. Oceans steamed and rained and steamed again. The moon, born from a catastrophic collision with a planetary body the size of Mars, took its place in orbit, stabilizing Earth's spin, pulling at its tides, watching in silence. Over time, the planet settled. The oceans calmed, the air thickened, lightning struck, chemicals mingled, and somewhere, somehow, life began. But we are not there yet. This was still a world of raw stone and churning sea, a world being sculpted by time, gravity, heat, and chance. Its surface was violent, its skies heavy with storms, its future unwritten, and yet within it, every song ever sung, every book ever written, every moment you've ever lived, was already written in the dust. The atoms were there, the sunlight was there, waiting. In the next chapter, we will watch the first sparks of life appear. Fragile, single-celled, barely more than a whisper. And yet, from them would rise forests, animals, minds, and questions. But for now, rest. Let the stars hold you. Let the quiet gravity of this new world carry you into sleep, because you are made of stardust, and you are home. The earth had formed. Its crust had cooled. Its oceans had filled, not in hours or days, but over millions of years, from steam, rain, and the frozen breath of distant comets. It was still a dangerous place, racked by earthquakes, blanketed in volcanic ash, shaken by the slow shifting of young tectonic plates. And yet, under all that chaos, something quiet was beginning. The oceans churned with chemicals, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, sulfur, all scattered by the stars, mixed by the planet's heat, stirred by lightning and ultraviolet light. There were no cells yet, no DNA, no rules, just raw ingredients, molecules clinging to one another, breaking apart and reforming again. It was chemistry at the edge of life, a slow, invisible experiment happening across every droplet of the planet's water. Somewhere in the warmth of these early seas, perhaps near a hydrothermal vent, or in a shallow tide pool kissed by sunlight, a moment occurred. A molecule formed that could copy itself. It was not life as we know it, not yet. But it was different from everything that had come before. It could replicate. It could pass on its structure. It could make more of itself. And in doing so, it became subject to something new, evolution. The tiniest change could make it faster or slower or more likely to fall apart. And those changes, over generations upon generations, began to build complexity. Soon, simple shells formed around these strands of code, protective bubbles that allowed them to drift safely through water. The first cells, tiny, soft-walled bubbles of life, clinging to rocks, riding the tides, absorbing energy from the heat or the sun. They did not think. They did not feel. But they lived. And from that moment forward, life never stopped. For billions of years, life remained simple, single-celled, microscopic, silent. But even within these tiny organisms, something astonishing was happening. They were learning how to gather sunlight, how to digest minerals, how to share genes and split themselves in two. Some began to work together, Others formed colonies. Tiny engines of metabolism churned within them, chemical factories born from chance and sharpened by time. One day, a group of cells developed the ability to use sunlight to split water, releasing oxygen into the oceans. At first, it was toxic, a poison. But over time, oxygen transformed the atmosphere and opened the door to life as we know it. Still, it would take eons before life became anything more complex. Entire empires of single-celled organisms would rise and fall, unseen, unrecorded, ancient beyond imagining. But eventually, something changed. Some cells became larger, others merged. They formed partnerships, mitochondria, chloroplasts, ancient symbioses that still power your cells today. And with that merging came the dawn of true complexity. Organisms began to specialize, to move, to respond, to live not just in water, but on land, and one day in thought. But for now, let us pause. We are still in the ancient ocean. The light above is soft and green. The floor is warm. The current is slow. Within this calm, a single cell divides. And in that quiet act, the future is born. In the next chapter, we will explore the long, winding road from these early forms to the rise of animals, from sponges and worms to creatures with bones, eyes, and awareness. But for now, breathe. Let the current carry you. Let the stillness hold you. You are the child of this ocean, and it remembers you. For billions of years, life remained simple, tiny, invisible to the naked eye. It clung to stones. It drifted on tides. It thrived in silence, untouched by the concept of time or memory. But complexity was building, quietly, gradually. Inside cells, new machinery evolved. Genes began to shuffle and recombine, giving rise to bodies that were not just functional, but adaptable. And then, about 600 million years ago, the world changed. Suddenly, life bloomed in new shapes. Flat-bodied worms glided across the ocean floor. Soft-bodied creatures like Dickinsonia and Spriggana emerged, alien by today's standards, but revolutionary in their time. They were the first to move with purpose, to sense their surroundings, to react. This period, called the Ediacaran, was nature's first rehearsal, a gentle draft before the true explosion. And then it happened. A burst of evolution so profound, it reshaped the entire biosphere. The Cambrian explosion. Roughly 540 million years ago, life erupted in diversity. In the span of just a few million years, nearly all major animal body plans appeared. Shells, joints, spines, claws, and most importantly, eyes. For the first time, the world could see itself. Simple, light-sensitive patches evolved into complex visual systems. Predators could now spot prey. Prey could flee. Survival became not just a matter of drifting, but of choice, movement, and interaction. The ocean became a battleground of innovation. Trilobites scuttled across the sea floor. Strange armored creatures like Anomalocaris patrolled the depths with grasping limbs and circular jaws. Life was no longer passive. It was aware, mobile, and increasingly complex. And as the oceans teemed with activity, plants began creeping onto land. At first, just mats of algae, then mosses, ferns, roots pushing into soil. They paved the way, literally, for life to step beyond the sea. Soon, the first land animals followed, small, squirming, gasping for breath. Insects came next, vast and varied, with wings and shells. And then the age of fish, creatures with backbones, jaws, teeth. Some of them grew legs. They crawled from the water onto mud, onto rock, onto the forests, taking shape under the sun. These were the amphibians, bridging the gap between two worlds. From them came the reptiles, the mammals, and eventually, us. But it was not a straight line. Evolution is never tidy. There were extinctions, 5 major ones, moments when the earth reset, when nearly everything died, and yet life always returned. Not the same, but stronger, stranger, wiser. Bones became lighter, brains became larger, feathers appeared, songs filled the forests. Creatures began to dream, to form social bonds, to grieve. From the silence of cells, life had become a symphony, and all of it, every eye, every limb, every breath, could be traced back to those first molecules in a warm ocean, billions of years before. Tonight, we lie here as part of that unbroken chain. We are the latest verse in a poem that began with stars and dust, and tomorrow we will continue to write it. But for now, rest. Let the old earth hold you. Let the deep time wash over your thoughts like waves. You are not lost in time. You are time. The earth had grown lush. Forests stretched across the land. Mountains rose and fell. Creatures soared through skies, swam through oceans, and hunted across the plains. Among them, a new kind of animal had begun to emerge. It did not have the strongest claws, nor the sharpest teeth. It could not fly, nor did it carry venom. But within its skull, something was stirring. It began, as it always does, with small changes, a shift in posture, a straighter spine, a hand that could grasp not just fruit, but a tool, a brain that grew slightly larger, generation after generation, as the challenges of the world demanded more from it. From the heart of Africa, these early primates walked upright for the first time. Their eyes scanned the horizon. Their hands shaped stone. And in the quiet space behind their eyes, thought began to flicker. They were Homo habilis, the handyman, and then Homo erectus, explorers of distance and fire. They did not simply live in the world, they began to change it, to build shelters, to hunt in groups, to carry flame across the dark. Fire. It was more than warmth. It was safety, vision, transformation. It softened food, lit the night, and became the heartbeat of every early gathering. Around it, stories were told, faces glowed in the flickering orange, and a new kind of awareness was born. Language emerged slowly, from gesture to sound to meaning. Ideas could now travel from one mind to another, across hours, across generations. A song could outlive the singer. A warning could echo through a tribe long after danger had passed. And soon, we were not merely surviving. We were remembering, planning, creating. Our ancestors painted animals on cave walls, not just as decoration, but as tribute, record, and perhaps even prayer. They buried their dead with care, suggesting a dawning sense of self, of soul, of time itself. We had become not just animals, but storytellers. As millennia passed, we grew bolder. We spread across continents, adapting to jungle, tundra, desert, and sea. We invented tools of wood and bone, then bronze and iron. We planted seeds. We domesticated animals. We watched the stars and gave them names. From scattered tribes came cities. From grunts and gestures came poetry. From simple shelters came temples, towers, libraries. And through it all, the mind kept expanding. We asked questions the universe had no obligation to answer. Why are we here? What lies beyond the stars? What happens after we die? We built civilizations. We told myths. We charted the heavens and wrote down laws. We learned to measure time, the very fabric of our own unfolding. But even now, with all we've built and all we've forgotten, the core remains. We are stardust with memory, the universe made conscious. Your bones remember the mountains. Your blood remembers the ocean. Your breath, warm, steady, present, remembers the first winds that stirred the earth. And your thoughts, they are echoes of that first flicker of awareness, not separate from the stars, but born of them. As you rest now, let this truth settle softly into your being. You are not a visitor to the universe. You are its expression. In the next chapter, we will follow the story of humanity's rise, from early empires to the modern world. From stone to silicon, from the campfire to the stars. But for now, let your mind grow quiet. Let the spark of thought dim to a gentle glow. You have traveled far, and the night is still. The mind had awakened. The world, once shaped only by wind and water, now bent slowly beneath the will of thought. Humans had become architects of their own surroundings. They carved stones not just for tools, but for monuments. They marked the sky with myths and aligned their temples to the stars. Civilization began to rise, slowly, like a tide at dawn. In Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates, came the first cities. Uruk, Babylon. Names now etched in time. Here, people gathered not as families, but as nations. They built ziggurats that scraped the sky. They created writing, symbols pressed into wet clay to capture memory, trade, laws, and dreams. In Egypt, stone pyramids pointed toward eternity. Rulers became gods, rivers became calendars. And behind it all, a rhythm, the pulse of agriculture, astronomy, ceremony. Across the world, great civilizations blossomed. In the Indus Valley, cities were gridded with precision, and drains whispered of hygiene long before modern science. In China, dynasties formed, with silks and philosophies, poems and inventions that would ripple across centuries. In the Americas, the Maya tracked time with shocking accuracy, and the Inca wove empires through mountains with thread and stone. In Africa, kingdoms flourished, gold, salt, wisdom traveling across the Sahara on camelback. Each civilization rose with its own song, its own gods, its own tragedies. And still, the questions endured. Where did we come from? Why do we love? What is waiting beyond the stars? Philosophers pondered, warriors marched, builders built, empires formed, fell, reformed. Rome stretched from island to desert, from myth to law. Greece gave us democracy, theater, mathematics, and the early whispers of atoms. The Islamic Golden Age preserved and expanded ancient knowledge, mapping the stars and unlocking the inner workings of the human body. In Europe, the Renaissance rekindled curiosity, music, anatomy, invention blooming like flowers after a long frost. And then, the world accelerated. The printing press amplified thought. The telescope turned our gaze outward. The microscope turned it inward. Steam-powered engines, coal-fed cities. Electricity lit the night and lengthened the day. And in the quiet hum of laboratories, modern science began to whisper back answers to questions once asked by firelight. We split the atom. We mapped the genome. We built machines that could think faster than us, and rockets that could outrun gravity. We landed on the moon. We sent probes beyond the edge of the solar system, carrying golden records with music, greetings, and the fingerprints of Earth, just in case someone or something finds them. And now, here we are. You lying still, listening, surrounded by the work of a civilization that began in dust and is now decoding the stars. And yet, for all our progress, we remain what we've always been, curious, searching, capable of love and cruelty, wonder and fear, endlessly fragile, endlessly resilient. We hold ancient instincts in modern minds. We scroll glowing screens, but we cry for the same reasons our ancestors did. We still look at the night sky and feel small, but also part of something unimaginably vast. The story of the modern world is not yet finished. It never will be. But it is made, moment by moment, by people like you, by hearts that beat, by minds that wander, by quiet thoughts at midnight, asking what if and what comes next. In our final chapter, we will reflect on the future, the paths we may take, the dreams we might chase, and the universe, still unfolding, But for now, rest. Let the centuries fade behind your eyes. Let history soften into stillness. You are the product of all who came before.